Hello, everybody. Welcome to Catfish Weekly, episode 69. Tonight, we're talking artificial baits and catfishing. And I think we have probably one of the kings, if not the king, of artificial baits and catfishing with the pictures I've seen, Keith Severns. Chuck Davidson's here tonight. We're testing out a brand new prototype virtual reality machine. Looks pretty cool. I think we all might get one of those. We got Lyle Stokes with us and myself, Chris Fudd Wallace. But welcome, Keith. How you doing tonight?
All right, man. Glad to be here. Very glad to be here.
That's cool, man. So you do a lot of artificial fishing, right?
I do
Would
a
you?
lot of fishing, period. But yes,
Period.
yes, I love the artificial aspect. I love hunting them down instead of waiting for them to come to me.
Now, are you normally targeting catfish, or are you just targeting whatever bites your lure when you're out there?
I am targeting flathead catfish, but I love all species, and I'll take those bonuses anytime they come.
All right. Well, we're all gonna have a lot of questions for you. Anybody in chat, if you guys have questions, put them in the chat. We'll ask them for you. But we're gonna try to take advantage of his knowledge, what he's learned. Not a ton of people are using artificials in catfishing, so I think this is going to be a great episode, and there's going to be a lot to be learned from Keith tonight. So, keep your ears open, and if you got a question, like I said, just ask. So, Chuck, go ahead and get us rolling there.
Good to have you on, Keith.
Thanks, Chuck.
Hey, I was wanting to ask you some questions about the plastics. Um, if you could go over some different brand sizes you use, and the different materials that you prefer, the realistic feels, and if you would go over the brands that have the added scents and amino acids, and cover the importance of having those also.
Okay, as everyone that knows me knows, I love soft plastics, and one of my favorites is a wide variety of the gulp plastics, Berkeley gulp, um, such as this 6-inch jerk shad. Um, we've got some gulp eels. I've got a wide variety of gulp, and fish really seem to love the smell of it. I mean, I catch all species on it, but flatheads in particular just seem to be drawn to it. If this drops down in their face, a lot of times they're going to smack it, whether they're actively feeding or not. It's just a impulsive temptation, you know. A human could be laying on a couch stuffed full. If someone dangles a Dorito down in front of him, he's still going to eat that Dorito. So I'm laying these plastics down. I'm vertical jigging these edge lines, and dropping smelly plastics down by them, and then they'll grab it.
But what do you think the most important part of the scent is? Do you actually think it's the scent of the different species, or the oils of the different type bait fish they may add in, or do you think it's the amino acids that the catfish actually need to grow that actually entice them the most?
I think it's the amino acids, but more than that, it's you just don't want your plastic smelling like plastic. That's unnatural.
Okay.
So this is one of many tubs I have. Of course, the wife makes me keep them in the garage, but those are non-gulp plastics. So to get the smell out of those, I constantly have them soaking in a wide variety of. That mixture right there is sardine oils, mackerel juices, um, um, clam juice, different varieties of power bait formulas such as walleye formula. It doesn't really matter what you use. Just you want it oily. Fish oils of any kind, keep soaking them. Some plastics are harder to infuse than others. So some plastics, you have to poke with needles. I mean, do whatever it takes. Keep soaking them constantly. then when I take them out of these tubs, I'm putting them in baggies, even with the liquid. When they're out with me, I always have my plastic soaking. The gulps, go ahead, sir.
How often do you change them out, or do you just re-dip the one you have on your hook and recast it?
When I start to run out of my baggies, I'll get more out of the tubs, the ones that have been soaking the longest.
No, while you're out fishing, how long do you use that particular plastic before you put a fresh one on, or do you keep dipping it down into the juice after so many casts?
I'll either tie a new fresh one on, or I'll apply just different more scent to it about every 15 minutes. They've got this stuff called smelly jelly. You can put this on hard lures or soft lures on your jig heads, and this stuff stays on for a good 15-20 minutes, and there's all kinds of different smelly varieties of it. You got your crawfish flavors for your crawdad imitations, and your shad flavors for your baitfish imitations. So yeah, and like the gulps, about 15 minutes, I'll take a gulp minnow like this off the jig head and put it back in the gulp bag, and this, you can use it again. It'll freshen back up later, but I'll put a fresh one on and let the one I've been using freshen up in the bag.
Yes, I've heard this, but I don't know if it's true, because I've used the old gulp chicken liver type, just for channel cats a couple of times. Never did any good with them, but they were saying that the material that it's made out of is some type of a polypropylene. And actually, the older that material gets, is the better that it holds scent. So after they get all raggedy looking, where most people would throw them away, if they still have all the parts, that's about the best time of the life of that plastic to be able to hold the scent. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do agree with that, but you can't really judge it off of those gulp, off their Catfish lineup. I've tried those. They don't work. They just flat. I mean, I love Berkeley Gulp, but they didn't hit the mark there with their Catfish ones.
No,
they need to work on that.
Right.
I would rather throw this Gulp minnow out there and just let it dead stick on the bottom, and I guarantee you a channel cat will come eat this just sitting there, laying there motionless on bottom.
Yes, the reason why I bought them was to I was interested in the material they use. So I bought a couple of bags, and I have some stuff that I mixed up that's just a amino acid base that I needed to soak, have something to soak it in where it would release over a certain amount of time, where I could add it to a rig to try out. So I just bought those to dry them out and get all the scent out of, to try to add my own stuff to them to see how they work.
That may work. I didn't know that the Catfish lineup was made of a different material than their.
Yeah, it's a polypropylene. It's supposed to be about the same thing.
Do's and don'ts in tournaments. We're going to talk a little bit about some things you should be doing, some things you probably shouldn't be doing. Probably talk a little bit about some other things, but
somebody's last week's show.
Welcome everybody. Sorry I missed you last week. Chuck, if you want to go ahead and get us going on the do's and don'ts and things you might want to get. Is that you, Lyle?
It ain't me.
It ain't me.
Well, I hadn't fished any, gone now, really big tournaments. Monsters on the Ohio, they were pretty much standard.
Lyle's face was up, so it's probably his.
Yeah, I think it's on yours, Lyle.
It's not on mine. If every tournament trail had a standard.
It's in your background or something, because your face is coming up.
Yeah, look at your. Look.
Oh.
Oops.
All right. Before we keep going, anyway, Keith, I got a couple questions from the chat. People from chat have for you. Major Brown wants to know: have you ever caught them on spinnerbaits, or do you try spinnerbaits at all?
Yeah.
You do catch them on spinnerbaits.
Butcher tail, think musky size spinners.
And do you put any scent on the hair on the end or anything like that, or?
Absolutely, douse it good. Now this is more of a faster presentation. The scent really plays a role when I'm doing more of the pitching and flutter falling or the vertical jigging. That those slower in their face presentations is when that scent really shines. When you're using crankbaits or power presentations to get that reaction strike, the scent doesn't play in so much. But I mean, on a hard swim bait like this, I'm still going to douse that sucker with smelly jelly, you know, just for that final strike. It may make him inhale it a little farther down.
All right, welcome back, Lyle.
And
So,
I'll also sweeten the deal on the butcher tail and on that big treble. I'll throw, there's two of them, but I would throw another one on the third. And then as that thing is spinning around and vibrating, those babies are jiggling behind. Money.
What do you target your largest catfish on? I mean, not target, but what seemed to produce your largest catfish?
I've caught a couple of 50-pounders on a 3-inch gulp minnow during the cold times. Talking early spring, March, when they first start moving out, and late fall. I don't know why those colder water periods, they want a smaller offering sometimes. And that's another thing I wanted to talk about. A lot of people going after predator species, you know, they're going to start off with your power presentations, your big stuff, you know, going for that reaction strike, going for actively feeding fish. I start off and then if they're not biting, then they'll downsize and they'll go to finesse. I kind of start off opposite with the flatheads. Since they're, you know, sedentary 90% of the time, or they've already actively fed when you're out there, I'm applying that Dorito strategy I talked about with I like this double 2 jigs tied in line about 12-15 inches apart with 2 gulps. Here's the bottom one. You want to be a little bit bigger, and you got a smaller jig tied in line with a Palomar knot. So it gives it's basically a drop shot rig, but you can do anything with it. You can pitch it and flutter fall it next to cover. You can slow hop it on the bottom. You can cast it and retrieve it at all different levels. You can put a float at various levels and suspend it and let the wind and waves, you know, cover water for you. But one of my favorite methods is just vertical jigging, just straight beside the tube, just pop, pop, drop, flutter, fall down, pop, pop, drop, next to edge lines, next to any cover. There's something about 2 fish is better than 1. I mean, why just use 1 jig? And there's something about the bigger offering on the bottom chasing another fish. It brings out a predatory response. They want a piece of that action. If they see something chasing something else, and then boom, you've also got it. You give her that sweep up or pop up, and that gives it the escape mechanism that triggers fish. And then boom, it flutters back down. They can't resist it. And then you've got the power of that smell involved too. It's deadly system.
Tim Lang wants to know what size are the jig heads that you're using in them rigs.
That varies a lot, just according to waterway and current. Right now, that's probably a 3/8 on the bottom and a 1/4 ounce on top. just varies. And another thing about jig heads, this isn't very big jig, but you can see it's short and compact, and it's super strong. A lot of jigs, you can test them out. A lot of jigs on the market, no bueno. You can pull right there, pull straight back, and you can bend them out, no problem. You can do that with your fingers. You don't want that jig. I can pull on this one as hard as I can, and it won't budge.
So is that a specific company or model that you have found that seems to be a better quality?
Well, there's a lot of good jigs out there. This happens to be a Northland Weed Weasel, and they actually come with two little flares on it for make it weedless.
Uh-huh.
But I usually snip those off because I don't want anything in my way of, you know, a flathead's maw is tough. You want to get a good hook set. And that's another, I never go anywhere without this little sharpening stone. You know, you're constantly getting snagged, rocks, wood. I want these babies as sharp as possible. You'll see me out there. Guys have been fishing with me like, damn, he sharpens his hooks a lot. Well, it's real important. I want the sharpest damn hooks I can get.
Awesome.
So basically what I was saying about I go to that finesse first, and then if that's not working, then I'll go to my power stuff, my big stuff on my bait caster. I always carry 2 poles with me on my float tube. The spinning reel for the lighter stuff, for the double gulp jigs, and the bait caster for the big swim baits, the big crank baits. Here's a nice swim bait right here, made by Storm. I mean, looks just like the real deal. Why wouldn't a flathead chomp that? Why do you need to use a live shad when you got this? There's another awesome product out there, guys. It's Uncle Josh Meat. And this is actually in the meat saltwater lineup. That's a 10 or 11 incher there. They cut a little tail out for you. This stuff undulates in the water like you wouldn't believe. It looks so alive. And this already comes scented with like a squid smell for saltwater. So it's already good and smelly, but I have that dipping, you know, soaking in my batches of goodies as well, just to have more scent. And this holds scent a long time. Check out those meat products, the saltwater lineup specifically.
Uh-oh. All right, some of the other questions we got for you. What type of rod do you use? And Lyle, do you happen to make a jigging rod for catfish?
Well, yeah.
Of course. And Keith, what kind of rod is it that you're using? I know you said there's a spinner rod and a bait caster, but is there any specific brand or anything or an action that you like more? Or?
My spinning rod is pretty light but super sensitive. I can feel the slightest tap. I can feel changes in bottom contour. It's a 7-foot Gander Mountain GSX titanium with micro guides, and I run 65-pound Power Pro mainline, and then of course I have the barrel swivel and about a 3-foot leader of 25-pound Trilene mono. I like that mono leader for a little bit of shock absorption when those beasts hit, and it's also better in the rocks. I love fishing rocks.
3 feet, huh? That's a pretty good size leader.
Well, yeah, it's so I can run the two jigs.
Yeah.
And that's a 7-foot rod, medium action, and then my other one is a 711 heavy action Omen rod with my bait caster to throw the bigger power offerings. Look at this bad boy right here. That's a Steeble Magic Swimmer soft bait. So you can see I've got that Texas rigged with the sliding weight. Now on that one, I probably can't see I don't need near as long a leader because I'm not using 2 jigs. But I still use the mono leader. Just a sliding slip sinker, big old 12-aught offset hook, and once again, I run that sideways. A lot of people run them up and down. I think it has a lot better action sideways. And you can see I don't put that hook back into the body because I want that just laying flat there. Yeah, you can still get snagged a little bit, but I can usually pop it free. But I want that hook just laying flat right there, so I've got all that penetration when a fish hits. I can power it through that plastic and into his mouth. And you can drop this baby into anything, wood cover, just, you know, pitch it into the gnarliest stuff. It's 50-50 sometimes getting them out of that stuff, but they'll nail that thing.
All right, I know there's more questions, but I'll go ahead and let Chuck ask you some more if you've got any more, Chuck.
Yeah, tell me what got you into the float tube? Did you start off with a kayak or anything, or did you just start straight off with a float tube? And how long you been doing that?
I've been float tubing probably 25 years. I was just mainly a bass and crappie guy, you know. I've been missing out for a long time. But I think it was 9, maybe 10 years ago, I'm crappie fishing using the double gulp jig just with 3-inch gulp minnows, jigging brush piles, catching nice slab crappie. And boom, I feel the thump of my life. And that was with an ultralight, by the way, and 6-pound line. 40 minutes later, catch a 40-pound flathead, and my life's never been the same since. I love these fish with a passion. I love to catch them. I love to release them, and that's really important these days with the way they're getting hammered, man. Over the past 10 years, I've seen the fisheries really, you know, flatheads aren't going to go extinct, but those bigs seem to keep getting thinner and thinner every year.
Yep. Speaking of fish, I know that you were telling me a little bit earlier. You got that big old 200-gallon fish tank behind you, and you got a
Yes,
little flathead in there, and some all kinds of other fish in there.
Yes, sir.
Sunfish or bluegill.
Yes, sir. I've got some native Kansas fish in there. I've got a flathead in there. My son actually caught that about 2.5 years ago. He was crawdad hunting, lifting rocks and catching crawdads for us, and he cupped that up in his hands, and it was only about maybe not even a half-inch long. We couldn't even tell, you know, if it was a channel cat, bullhead, or flathead at the time. It was so tiny. And I put that thing in my tank, and I had already had some crappie and some sunfish in there, and I thought, man, that sucker's going to get chomped. And I didn't see him for like a month. I figured for sure he was a goner. Well, they do what they do best. He hid under the rocks. You know, I think that's what they do for the first year of their life, and they have to. He hid under the rocks, and when I cleaned the tank, I found him, and he was about an inch bigger, and just been growing him ever since. He's about close to 2 pounds now.
Well, what age did you see him start getting very predatory? What length?
About 8 inches. 8 inches long. He started to come out a lot more and felt a lot more comfortable. I think he finally realized at that point that nothing in that tank could eat him.
And that's when you started seeing him actually, got to watch him feed and stuff like
Yeah.
that?
Yes. Pretty cool stuff.
So what do you keep? You keep a lot of shiners and stuff in there to feed them, or
Goldfish, minnows, shiners. He does not like worms. You can lay a worm right in his face, he won't touch it. He will not touch a worm. I know guys can catch big flatties every once in a while on a big ball of worms, but he doesn't like them. But
That's interesting.
I've had a lot of stare out contests with him, and he wins every time, man. Yeah, you don't have a stare out competition with the flathead.
Yeah.
Don't win.
We got another question for you from Major Brown. Are you catching all species of catfish using artificials? Channels, flatheads, and blues, or just channels and flatheads, or?
Unfortunately, I don't have the blues around here in my area to play with, but I'm sure it would work on them. I catch the fire out of channel cats and flatheads, and that's the two main species I have around here.
I would have to
Gonna
say
try
they'd
to.
work on blues as well. I mean, if you got shad, you got bluegill,
There he is.
swim
Can you guys
baits,
see him? Do you guys see him?
Yep.
Yeah.
There you go. I'll put it right on you there so everybody sees you. You're up a little high right now. Go down a little bit. To your left. There you go.
Yeah.
Hello, Mr. Flatty. You coming to say hello too? All
Yes,
right.
sir.
Do you think you're ever going to you think you're going to put him back in the river one day, or are you just going to keep him in there?
I'm actually building a big rock quarry pond out back, and I want to keep him for life. He'll probably outlive me,
Cool.
and then I'll pass him on to my kids. I'm digging it out real deep. It's going to have waterfalls cascading in. It's dug out right now. I need the liner and the pump, which I'm working on a new home for it, and can't wait till she'll really start getting big. Then put her in big water.
Oh yeah.
I'll get down in there and swim with her and hand feed her some big old koi goldfish and good times, man.
Is she hard to catch in the tank? Is she like trying to catch a wild one in a live well, or is she easy to get a hold of?
No, she's not easy to get a hold of by any means.
So she makes a mess in the living room, huh?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
All right, kids. I didn't leave you no money, but old Mr. Whiskers is all yours. I got a. What's that, Chuck?
I was asking Lyle if he's got anything. He hadn't asked any questions yet.
Are you all done?
I'm pretty skeptical about this stuff. One thing. What type of water are you fishing when you're doing this?
These methods. You guys know Chapman, right, on the bass tour?
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Maybe. Well, I think he does so good because Kansas has so many different varieties of waterways, and these techniques have worked in everything from shallow, muddy creeks to we have some really huge, crystal clear sand pits, 50 foot deep. So I'm fishing shallow, muddy stuff. I'm fishing super clear, gin clear, deep stuff. This has worked in. We don't have any big rivers around here, but it's worked in medium-sized rivers. It's worked in state fishing lakes, reservoirs, creeks, sand pits, any body of water I can find. This has worked in. I try to find it all.
I would like to see it. Try it on the Mississippi and Missouri rivers. If you can catch fish,
I would too. When we going?
Yeah. Hey, I'm sitting here with a boat full of gas.
He fishes out of a tube though, Lyle. You got to get in a tube with him.
I ain't getting in no tube. I'm gonna tell you right now. That's like one of them little bass buddy.
You guys
got on it. I ain't getting in one of them.
You guys bring up an important key there. The tube is actually a big part of this system. The tube forces me to slow down and probe every little nook and cranny. The stealth of the tube, I believe, is huge because I'm catching these things right under me, right beside me. You're not going to do that paddling kayaks or using a trolling motor scaring these fish. I'm catching a lot of these fish shallow, 1 to 5 foot deep, just cruising edge lines, cruising shallow edge lines, and usually in the daytime, sometimes high noon in the middle of summer. People think flatheads are nocturnal. That's madness. If you see my pics, 80% of them are daytime flatties.
Are you using any type of fish finder, depth finder, anything to find the fish, or are you just throwing it up in brush and structure?
No, these are my depth finder. I drop jigs down and I'm going on pure instinct. No electronics.
So the medium-sized rivers that you fish, do they have any current to mount anything on
Yeah, they have current.
them? Do you have an idea about how
Sometimes
much current?
I wouldn't be able to tell you how much. I know I go with the current. I don't try to go the other way. I go with the current and have the truck parked a few miles down.
So you're just floating along there, and when you see a piece of structure you want to fish, you just basically try to hold on that until you've thoroughly convinced yourself that you have made the best attempt to make something happen as you can.
Yes, and I can being in that tube on the water is like being a human bobber, and that has really helped me read water and read currents. I mean, there's backflows, there's eddies, there's the current seams. I can hold on a river where I want to a lot of times. You know, probably not the Mississippi or the James, but on these smaller to medium-sized rivers, I can hold and I can circumvent around a big log jam, dipping into every little opening I can find, dropping my plastics down there. You know, you can't do that in a kayak. You can't do that in a boat.
I'd sure like to see that happen sometime. I just can't make. I can't. The places I fish, I can't see it working. Maybe I just miss it in the boat, but your success rate speaks for itself. So that's pretty much cut and dry. If you're catching them like you are, then it's something that everybody should take a look at and at least give an honest effort to make it work. But
Hey.
the truth, I have never looked for the type of bait that you're using to even consider using them. So that's maybe I'm missing the boat here on some stuff.
Are flatheads not the ultimate predators?
Oh, absolutely. I hear these stories about muskie and pike this and muskie that, and why hell, a good flathead eat the majority of them for dinner.
That's right. Does this look alive to you?
Well, it's hard for me to judge on that camera. You've got it pretty close, but they do have a lot of good movement in them, that's for sure.
Trust me, they look alive, and trust me, they smell alive. What more does a fish want? If you present it in a natural manner, and you have the stealth factor like I do with the tube, I'm telling you, it's money system.
So
I'm
are you
catching flatheads almost every weekend to prove that.
Are you just jigging those up and down in brush piles then? When you find a brush pile like a log jam or something, you just get up to it and jig them up and down in different areas on that pile?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But even more than brush piles, I like I said before, I love rock lines, huge riprap, big boulders. I mean, think about rock. Flatties are drawn to rock like snakes, especially in the early season and early spring, like we've just been through. Those rocks radiate heat. Those rocks hold the crawdads. There's another food source for them. Every big rock is a potential ambush spot, a potential lair. So I cruise rock lines, slowly creeping along them, probing the rocks, sometimes right at the shoreline, and then sometimes I get my tube out and I'll just drop deeper. They're going to be along that edge somewhere, or eventually they're going to come up along them rocks. It's just a natural feeding route, a natural edge line. I love the rocks. The flatties love the rocks.
They also love sandbanks and flats and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Do you ever try to drift along and bounce your bait along the bottom while you're floating along?
Yes, yeah. Sometimes I actually have rod holders on my tube, and I'll be jigging perpendicular one way along the edge line, like say the rocks, and this other rod will be dragging out on bottom on that deeper ledge. So, and if it gets hit, I can grab it, pull it out. So I'm fishing 2 rods at the same time sometimes.
Okay. So you're basically drift fishing. When you're doing that.
Yes, yes.
When you're in these lakes and stuff, when you're talking about these clear water areas, do you ever have the opportunity to sight fish for these flatheads?
No, I never have.
Okay.
I never have had the opportunity. I have on this 9-inch sea bowl hard minnow. I was pulling this through a little funnel area, twitching it only about a foot below the surface, and I see the big brown mini sub camo machine come up and blast this thing. It was amazing. That's a fish I will never forget. He hammered the Steel 9-inch hard minnow and a foot under the surface, so it was almost like a topwater deal. And that's something I'm going to work on. I know flatheads eat ducks. I know they eat muskrats, snakes,
Right.
frogs. I really want to catch one on a topwater this year. I'm going to be working hard on that one.
That'd be awesome.
I think that most catfish are opportunists to a certain extent. Blues probably most of all, and then channel cats. But I think flatheads can be an opportunist. But we've talked about this before. They will kill stuff to eat it, but I think a lot of times they just kill it to get it away from them. They don't want things around them. They're just mean.
Well, yes. Yeah, I agree.
Real quick on one of the, we still got more questions for you. Lots of people in chat are interested, and I've got messages on Facebook as questions for you. Johnny Ward asked, "What's the most you've ever caught from one brush pile?"
2.
2 from one pile?
2 from one pile. Now, and speaking of 2 flatheads, I don't know if you guys have ever seen my pic on Facebook, but my double gulp rig, 2 flatties at the same time. They're both about 15-pounders. One on
Wow.
each jig at the time, proving that flatheads do indeed feed in mini wolf packs sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Well, I'm a firm believer in if you catch one, there's another with it or close by. You may or may not catch it, but there'll be one not too far away.
Yeah, a lot of people, when they have a set out, bank fishing or whatnot, and they've fan casted an area that a group will move through, and they'll, boom, boom, boom. A group will move through there. You'll catch 2, 3 flatties, and then, boom, they're gone.
If you had a really good hit in a tree, one of them heart thumping hits, and the very next jig you got your lure hung, would you shake that tree trying to get that lure out, or would you cut the line with scissors, retie, and put something else on him, or would you put your rod to the side and grab your other rod and use it until you're leaving that area?
Cut out on me on that one.
Where'd I lose you at?
You completely cut out on me on that one.
Okay, if you was fishing a log jam,
Yeah.
and you had a heart thumping strike, and the very next jig when you was going back after him, you got that lure hung. How would you handle that? Would you cut it with scissors? Would you shake that tree trying to get it out? Or would you set that rod to the side and try to get it unhung later and grab your other rod and start jigging with it to try to get him to respond to it?
I've found that if they strike and you miss him, he's not going to come back. You've scared him off at that point.
Okay, so
now there might be another fish there. So yeah, I would grab the other rod and keep pitching in there a few more times to see if there's another fish in there. But I don't think you're going to catch that fish again for a while.
Hey, Keith, I have this is just a story from this weekend. I don't know if you know who Casey Tudoro is. If you've heard of him
I do.
On Facebook, I know he's one of your friends, I believe. This weekend we were up at Lake Schaefer. Basically, the flatheads were on fire, he had a bite where he had caught the fish and got broke off or hung up and got broke off, and threw his retied his line back up, and a little bit later caught a fish again, and when he reeled it in and got it in the boat, he seen his cut off line that he had just lost, so that he caught the fish that he had just caught before.
Well, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, so it
awesome.
will happen. You can catch the same fish even though he's hit once and got off for some reason.
Yeah, it can happen. It's I'm just saying it's a rarity.
Yeah.
It's a rarity.
And just while I'm here talking about that anyway, speaking of which, Mary Jane happened to be her birthday. Mary Jane Wood and Terry Holding. Mary Jane caught a 53.5-pound flathead at this tournament. Of course, was big fish. And they won first place at that tournament. So that's an amazing fish. Congratulations, Mary Jane and Terry. That's a beautiful flathead. I wish I could have seen it in person. They were smart. They had the tournament directors come in so they could weigh it and get it put back in the water as fast as possible. That's another amazing thing that they did. They probably could have kept it alive in their live well. They just didn't want him to chance it. They wanted to get him back in the water as soon as possible.
Good for them. Good for them. That's wonderful.
Yep. You got any more for him, Lyle?
No, not right now. I may have in a little bit, but I can't think of anything else right now. I just really do you have any videos or anything like that of doing what you're talking about? He's locked up.
Yeah, he might be locked up.
Okay. I would love to watch some of that if he does have. I think that'd be very interesting.
I was going to tell you that I don't know if you're friends with him or not, but if you send the friend request, he's got a video of it's a swim bait bluegill, and somebody's like they're sitting there doing the, with the rod, just making that bluegill swim around, and it looks like a real bluegill. It's pretty cool.
Now, is he making this stuff himself?
No, I don't believe so. I believe there is some custom swim bait people that are out there that'll make stuff. Like, I think the video that I'm talking about might be a custom made swim bait, and then there might be some, Chuck might know a little more, there might be some big manufacturers out there doing some of these things. And
most of it's saltwater, large saltwater plastics. And some of the stuff that you might use up on the Great Lakes, going after some of the large muskies and stuff like that.
No, it's pretty interesting. I'm not sure I would just throw out everything out of the boat and take it to a tournament and try it, but I would like to give some of it a shot. If he can do it out of a tube and cast shadows all over where these fish are doing it, I see no reason why it wouldn't work out of a boat. That's just my opinion. But he's kind of in a stealth mode with the way he's doing it. He's quiet and he's sneaking up in places where these fish are at. But I don't. My personal opinion is I don't think that trolling motors and thing upset these fish, even in the shallow water. Because we've drifted right down through them and caught them in shallow water, and it didn't seem to bother them. And with that spot lock, if you get a spot where you want to try to do something, I would think you ought to be able to, if you even in heavy currents, you ought to be able to spot lock right down and try to work those fish if they're in there. And I also think that the side imaging would be a great asset to someone wanting to do that. Again, just my personal feelings about it.
I think that maybe, he might not know about some of the newer technologies that's out there in the trolling motors. And
that could be.
Keith, welcome back.
Hey, thanks, guys. What'd I miss?
Not a lot. We were just, I was just about to actually, I'm going to do a screen share and show people some of the pictures that you sent to me earlier. So that way people can see what kind of what we're talking about a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and share it now. I don't know if you can see what they're seeing.
Yeah, I see that. That's a saltwater chatterbait. Incredible vibrations. You can really call out to the Flatheads' amazing lateral line with that thing.
Okay, the next picture we got here.
That's that big storm swim bait.
And that looks like that's a good 6 to 8 inches long or so. Is that about right?
That is 10 inches long.
All right, well, 10 inches long.
That's what they all say.
Yeah,
that's what they all say.
It's a pretty good sized bait right there. I could see that catching a good sized fish.
Yeah.
Here's your next picture.
Yeah, a bunch of various plastics soaking in my concoctions.
I would say that you got crawdads here. You got what would be some shad-looking baits.
Yes, sir. Some of those meat products.
Yeah. Which almost looks like just a fillet, just a fish fillet.
Yeah, but the action in the water is incredible with those. I mean, they undulate like crazy.
There's a picture of a flathead. It looks like it's on a crawdad, a soft crawdad.
Yeah, that's a custom 7-inch crawdad that a guy here in Wichita was making for me. He quit making them, so I'm in the market to find the biggest crawdads I can find. All I can find are 4 and 5 inchers. I need some 9, 10, 11-inch crawdads. I want some lobsters. Flatheads,
I may have a contact. I don't know if you've heard of Case Plastics. I actually know the owner of Case Plastics. I could possibly try to get a hold of him and see if there was something he could do.
That would be awesome, especially if he could infuse crayfish oils into the plastic.
Yeah, that's something I'll have to look and see if I still have his contact information and maybe send him an email out. And
everything loves a good crustacean. I'm telling you, flatheads eat crawdads like candy. Even if a flattie's already fed himself full for the night, they still can't resist a crawdad coming by.
Yeah. Here's your next picture. It looks like I see the meat, the Josh meat, I think, or something like that. And
Yep.
the Berkeley gulps. It looks like saltwater eels.
Kalen makes those huge grubs. You ever heard of the Kalen grubs?
No, but
okay,
I'll take your word for it.
Kalen, those that thing I'm grabbing in the back there. That thing is 11 inches long. It's called a saltwater scampi, and like I was telling you, I was wanting bigger crawdad imitations. So those kind of resemble a crawdad in the water. Puts out awesome water displacement. Those legs wiggle, and I've got those soaking in scent crawdad oils.
Yeah, I would almost say that it would resemble between a crawdad and a frog, maybe frog legs.
Right. It just resembles something alive, and I make it smell good just to sweeten the deal.
Now, did we talk, not to interrupt, Chris, but did we talk about earlier in the show where you get this stuff, these baits?
I'm getting some of this stuff through Gander Mountain and through Cabela's here in town, but all the saltwater stuff I have to order online. I like Fish USA a lot. They have a lot of stuff.
Okay.
All right, next photo. Looks like just a wide assortment of things.
Yeah, just a lot of the stuff I've already shown you. Yeah.
All right. And that goes back. All right. Yeah, that's all the photos that I got from you.
Well, now, here's something. As skeptical as I am, when we started drift fishing a few years ago, it took me about 3 years before I'd even give it a try. I didn't believe that'd work either. And now that's one of the main things we do to catch blues for tournament fishing. So I can see where this is very interesting. At least it's very interesting to me. And after the show, I would like for you to stay on with us a little bit so I can gather up some information, because I can't remember the stuff that you was telling about where you get this and what you're soaking it in. That way I can write some of this stuff down if you wouldn't mind, Keith.
It's going to cost you.
That's okay. We'll work it out.
We'll work it out, man.
All right. Again, before we keep going here on this, there's some other things that I want to say. Sort of the midpoint of the show, even though it's a little bit later on. But also want to give a shout out to the Team Dirty Dogs, which is Cody White, Josh Garrett, Joe Stone, looks like Skylar May, Nicholas Cruz, Patrick Bryan of North Carolina, on their win Saturday on the Dash for Cash tournament. Team Hard Noodle for hosting 3 great catfish tournaments. I guess Mr. Gravedigger himself, Dennis Anderson, showed up with his son to fish. May even be watching tonight. Ernest Berry has a lot of respect for all you guys. Wanted to make sure we got a shout out to you. Ernest Berry, a great guy. I could tell by the things that he's posted on Facebook that he's a real sportsman. When you get your butt handed to you in a tournament and you go on Facebook and you tell everybody, hey, these guys did a great job, they whooped my butt, that's a true sportsman, give them props where they're due, and that's what he did, and telling us thanks for the things that we've helped him out with. That's posting on the things, that's posting on our website, our Facebook page and everything. That's all awesome. So like I said, thanks to all you guys that are watching the show, and if you're just tuning in or you're watching on YouTube, we really like when you guys participate. Let us know. Even sending us a message on YouTube or Facebook or anything. Tell us what you like or don't like or what you want to see. Yeah, Team Pale Rider. I believe that's Ernest's team's name. Ernest Berry there. I've got a bunch of questions for you, but I want to get all the questions that have been asked in the chats and stuff out to you first. Keith wants to know what the longest, or how long have you had the flathead in your tank? Has it been there about 2 years? Is that what you said?
I believe it's pushing 3 years now.
3 years now. And you think how much longer do you think he's got to be in there? Before you think he outgrows it?
Well, he won't outgrow it. He just would, they grow to their environment. He would just stay stunted. He'd get wider, but he wouldn't get much longer. But yeah, it's time to get him out back.
Okay, and then Major Brown asked, he goes, do you think that most of the fish that you're catching are just reaction strikes? They're not necessarily hunger strikes, or?
I'm calling it
both.
My Dorito theory. I'm calling it just an irresistible impulse strike.
Okay.
My bigger power presentations, the big crankbaits, the big spinner, the musky stuff, the giant swim baits, that's when you get your reaction strikes. That's when they're actively feeding. I'm catching them most of the time when they're not actively feeding. I got to cover a lot of water to do that.
Yep.
In the tube. But I'm playing the percentages. I'm covering 20 times the feeding flats, 20 times the edge lines. I'm covering 20 times the ambush points than a guy sitting on a bank, fishing one spot. I'm covering water, trying to find an active fish or at least a neutral fish that I can coax.
Yeah.
Have you fished with Jason Kittner yet?
No, he was going to come fish with me, but I can't remember what happened. I don't know if we had bad weather, but I think we're still going to get together.
Yeah, that's going to be exciting. I think he'll really get into it.
Oh, he's a hoot.
He acted like he was pretty pumped about it. I don't know if you guys can see this, but I forgot to mention umbrella rigs. Put on any various swim baits, any various Gulp products. Boom, you got yourself a school of minnows out there. Sometimes that's deadly. And I don't do it like most people, cast and retrieving it. I'm vertical jigging this thing. That just like those 2 Gulp jigs, pumping that up, floating it down. pump up, sometimes a big sweep, and just a flutter down. A lot of people don't vertical jig umbrella rigs, but I do.
Oh, I think that kind of reminds me a little bit of what Lyle was asking you right before you cut out. He was asking if you had any videos that you've done or.
And I've been wanting a GoPro for years, and I was just about to get one, and our water heater goes out on us. It's always something, man. I'm going to get a GoPro soon, I promise. I promise.
That'd be cool. Also, another question that, kind of goes along a little bit with that. Denise and Brian, Competitive Catfishing, sent me a message on Facebook and wanted me to ask you, have you ever like guided, or would you ever consider maybe taking people out on like a guided trip doing the float tube fishing?
Yeah, I'd love to, man. I've got quite a few people around here into it, and you got to have a musky man's mindset for this game. I mean, I can go out there and float tube for 8 hours and not get a strike. This is and sometimes I can go out there in 1 hour and catch 3 of them. You never know, but it's usually very much a patience game and a covering water game, just covering as many flathead hot zones as you can. A lot of people just aren't cut out for the kind of patience this takes.
Yep. Johnny Wards asks, do you think this works in lakes as well? And what's your confidence level on getting one or more daily?
If I had all day to fish every day, I think I could get a flathead a day for the rest of my life.
That's pretty confident.
You got to be in this game. I mean, like I said, when you're out there jigging for 6-7 hours without a strike, you got to stay confident. You got to keep believing in what you're doing. You got to, you know what I mean? You got to keep that confidence up. If you start to not believe, you're not going to fish as well, and things are just going to go bad from there.
Yeah. Also, I wanted to ask if you've ever had a flatty nibble on your toes or your feet.
No, but I've had some really big fish brush up against my legs, especially when I'm night tubing. Big gar, big carp. Some of them might be flatties. And that once again shows you the stealth of the tube. I mean, my flippers are shaped like a fish's tail. I sometimes think when I'm slowly flipping through the water, I'm putting out vibrations like I'm a big fish.
Yeah.
And I try to act like a flathead out there. I try to think like a flathead. I act like I'm a flathead on the prowl. And what would I go? Where's the concentrations of bait? Where's the best ambush areas? You know, I'm constantly trying to think like a flathead. And that's why I live with a flathead. I've learned a lot from this old girl I live with.
Now, how hard is it to maneuver your float tube? I mean, I'm sure that you're in water where your feet aren't touching the bottom, and at times and stuff. So what do you do to really keep yourself where you need to be and all that?
It's pretty amazing, and if anybody wants to do this, the tube doesn't matter so much, but the fins, don't skimp on the fins. I would not ever buy a pair of fins under $60-$70. You want some good fins. That's your power. That's your movement.
So by fins,
it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable what a good set of fins. How fast you can cruise. I mean,
by fins, you're telling people that you're saying the feet flippers, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Just in case people don't know what you're meaning by fins, So wanted to clarify.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Major Brown says at least you don't have to buy gas. Then ain't that the truth?
No, and I don't have to hassle with bait, keeping bait alive, dragging bait around. I got my bait in my pockets, in my pouches.
Do you ever have controversy with beavers? I know when we go out in boats, they'll circle our boats and splash their tails at us and all that. Have you ever been out on them where they've just been right there and really come after you, like, get out of here?
beavers scare the living bejeebas out of me. I've had them things come up to the behind me at night in the tube and do the most thunderous tail slaps I've ever heard in my life. Like a Sasquatch just jumped in the water beside me. Yeah, they don't like it when you get in their territory, especially at night. They'll tail slaps and let you know.
Yeah, so that right there really scare you to death. That's about the scariest things, a beaver scaring you.
That's the scariest thing for me at night, anyways. I don't mind the fish rubbing against my legs, but I don't like them beavers.
Yeah, that I mean, just unexpected. We'll be in the boat, and 10 feet from the boat, and sometimes they'll hit our fishing line. They don't know it's there, but they'll come up to do a tail slap, and sometimes water will come in the boat and actually hit you. That's how close they get. But they, I could just imagine being in a float tube, and being in their territory, how they would react.
Yep. They don't like it.
I was going to ask, who else do you know that's using artificials like you do, or what gave you the idea, or did anybody teach you, or is this just something that you sort of have started yourself, and taken it as far as you can go, or still working on, or what?
Oh, this is a lifelong, fishing in general is a lifelong learning experience, and I'm only about between half and 3/4 able to think like a flatty. I'm hoping by the time they put me in the grave, they can say this guy thought like a flathead. I'm constantly learning. Just that's what we're supposed to do: evolve as anglers, and evolve as humans. And it's just one big learning game. You're supposed to learn something new every time out in the water.
So you don't know of any other
do.
specific individual that's using the artificials the way that you're using them?
Nobody's taught me. I can credit my father for getting me into fishing when I was 5 years old and teaching me how to catch a bass. But other than that, I've done this all on my own. I've been catching flatheads on artificials from the float tube for 9-10 years now. Like I said, I haven't seen anybody else posting any pics of anything like I do. I've got a few people into it around here, like I've said, and they've caught their first few flatheads on artificials, including my sons. But no one's been able to do it on a consistent basis like I do.
Have you thought about doing, because one of the questions in chat is, do you tournament fish at all? Do you own a boat, or is the tube it?
No, I do not own a boat. I'm a land surveyor. Unfortunately, I just don't make a lot of money to be traveling around and to have a boat. So it's
the tube. Have you ever, do you have maybe a dream of one day getting enough people around you involved enough to where you guys could have some sort of fun tournament? $10 a person or something.
That would be awesome. And any kayakers or any other small vessels like that want to join, or even boats, I'd take on a boat any day of the week in my float tube.
Yeah, that'd be something that maybe you can try to organize. Sometime down the road, try to get some people involved in the area around you.
What I'm really hoping to do, one of my main goals in all this is. I don't want any glory for this. I want glory for the flathead. This is a very disrespected species. I want to show people that this is an amazing sport fish, man. They're incredible. And I think by showing them, with the artificial aspects of it, that there may be more of a catch and release ethics with the bigger specimens. I mean, I don't know why anybody wants to eat a 40 or 50 pound, 20-year-old fish. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
I gotta tell you, man, everything that you've been talking about and everything, I think you're awesome, man. Honestly, I like what you're doing out there. I like the fact that you're conservation minded. I really hope nothing but the most success for you, and that I get to come fish with you in a float tube someday.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it. Come
All
on
right.
out anytime.
I'll probably do it, man. I will probably do it. If you've got an extra float tube or something around that I could go with you, I'll probably come out there and do that with you.
I've got a float tube. My 16-year-old son uses my old float tube, but I'm sure he'd let you borrow it.
That's awesome. Is there a certain time of year that you really like to be out there more than others, or is it you just like to be out there about any time, or is
I
like you
live
said
for
you
this.
can catch fish
I live for this stuff, but I'd say if I had to pick, uh, mid to late fall, I
late
think is
fall?
the best all-around fishing.
Yep.
They're feeding up heavy for winter.
Now I know that you said you probably catch a lot of other fish besides catfish while doing this. What's some of the trophy size fish that you've caught of other species?
I tangle with a lot of 4 and 5 foot gar, which are really fun, and another species that people call trash and kill. But I say they're a sport fish. I love them. They do some high flying acrobatics. I've had them fly over my head in the float tube and actually tail slap me in the head. They're hard to keep hooked up. They get off probably 50% of the time, but I love fighting those. I catch a lot of big drum. Another disrespected fish that fight way harder than a bass. Cut drum up to 20 pounds, and they'll fool me sometimes. Them drum, their initial bulldog run towards the bottom, I'll think I'll have a flatty on it first, but then the drum will start head shaking more than a flathead will. But gar, drum, carp, I love it all. Bass, crappie, channel cats,
What size crappie
smallmouth
are you catching on
buffalo.
these lures? Normally monster crappie?
When I'm using those smaller 3 and 4 inch gulps, that double gulp rig that catches just about anything that swims.
Yeah.
That's the great thing about those smaller jigs, like I showed you. There it is. That thing is strong enough to hold a 60-pound flathead, but it's small enough to also catch a big slab crappie. So it's a real multi-species rig, that double jig rig.
Now, when you catch like a crappie or bass or any of that, do you take that home to eat, or does it depend on the water you're at, or?
I will keep a prolific species, with a 5-year lifespan like a crappie. That's one thing people got to realize. That people get all heated about CPR, selective harvest, meat hogs. There's a fine line there, and it's selective harvest, and just know. But you got to know every waterway is different, and every waterway has to be selectively harvested different.
Yeah.
Every waterway has its own dynamics, its own carrying capacity, its own population density of various year classes. You got to get to know those waterways. You got to pick and choose wisely. I mean, the year classes that are the most prolific will show themselves to you, and you keep a few of those. If all the year classes are showing themselves, then you keep one of each. But I mean, in no circumstances, why do you need to keep a 50 and 60-pound flathead? Like,
No.
all the noodlers, all the juggers, all the trout liners, all the limb liners. Now
I don't know
you
if it
got
was.
bow fishing becoming one of the most prolific sports across the U.S. How soon before they wipe out the alligator gar?
Yep. And I don't know if it was you or Lyle or somebody made a comment recently about basically the CPR and selective harvest, and that was the key word, is the selective harvest.
That's what it should be all about. I think they should do away with CPR because that's got a real negative connotation with it. I see through the various catfishing sites. And as soon as you mention CPR, people get upset and angry, and then fights break out. It's just, I don't know.
It's not that CPR is bad. It's just the
No,
fact that it's the connotation of it, almost like
right.
Asian carp.
To a lot of people, it's an all or nothing proposition. CPR.
Yeah.
Like, you have to do this, and people don't like to be told what to do, especially hard-headed catters.
I get what you're saying. Like I said, like Asian carp is got such a negative connotation to it that even though it's one of the best fish that you'll ever eat, they pretty much had to change the name of it. The chefs that are cooking it for people had to change the name of it for people to want to eat it because Asian carp has such a negative connotation to it.
Right.
So when you say CPR, yeah, you're saying that, you know, a lot of people immediately stiffen up and you know.
I
But
mean,
yeah,
we can keep the time-honored tradition of table fare, but also maintain quality fisheries.
yep. And it's that's what I mean. There is a lot of people that on Facebook, they immediately want to jump down someone's throat for not holding a fish right, not letting a fish go, and that's the wrong way to approach it. And I know we've talked about this quite a bit. The best thing you can do, and I do this, and I think it's about the only way you can do it, is just to at the very least say, you know, if you're going to release that fish, you're not holding it correctly. The most of the time they'll tell you, you know, hey, I gut hooked it, I'm going to eat it, you know, and that's the thing is you got a big 40 or 50-pound fish and it's going to die. You should eat that fish. You know, at least respect the species enough to put that food to waste, or not put that food to use and not waste it. You know, I mean, it's going to happen. You know, every big trophy fish isn't going to be able to be kept after it's been caught. Ideally, yes, you do want to put it back, but you're not going to gain somebody's respect or following by yelling and screaming and you know, demanding that they do something on Facebook on a picture. The best thing you can do is, what's that?
Especially when it's actually legal for them to do that.
Yeah, and it's completely legal. It's normally legal just about anywhere, but yeah, you have to be respectful. The most you can do is educate them. Try to help them understand why they should be putting that fish back or whatnot. And you know, if you go at them all hard nosed, all you're going to do is get that hard-nosed response back. I mean, you're just going to get somebody that's just going to stiffen up on you and not really want to listen to anything you have to say.
Yeah, I've been in a lot of those battles myself, and I've learned the same thing. And now I just try to do it in a calm and educating manner, and not chastise, not judge. Just try to explain, you know, my side and how I've seen the decimation, you know, in my own waters. That's why I'm so adamant about this. I mean, when fish stack up on dams and they're in predictable locations, people just hammer them. I mean, and they take everything. And what's that doing? It's leaving very few fish left to spawn at those dams. And the fish that are left are the smaller individuals usually. And we're just depleting the quality of the genetics in our waterways year after year. That's why we don't see very many 60 to 100-pound flatheads anymore. Where have all those fish gone? Those used to be a very common thing in the U.S. Hell, 100 to 150 used to be common 100 years ago. Look what's happened in that 100 years. Now a 50, 60-pound flathead is a trophy, when in actuality that fish is only half grown. You know, if things keep up, in 10 years, a 40-pounder will be considered a trophy.
Not if we can do anything about it. That's what, you know, shows like ours and some of the people that are doing it the right way are trying to get out there and
well,
you know,
people, like I said, they're hard-headed and they're doing it the way Pappy and Grandpappy showed them. They got to realize there's millions more catters out there now. You not only you think about what you're doing. Oh, I can't personally hurt this waterway. You got to think about what Tom, Dick, Harry, and Bubba are also doing. I mean, it's one of the fastest growing. Catfishing is exponentially growing every year. It's more and more catters, more pressure on the waterways, more pressure on the bigs.
And that's why we got to get the youth educated right now and let them understand exactly what needs to be done, so that way they can have those 60-pounders when they grow up, not 40-pounders.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But Jason Acock said that he basically says you're awesome too. He'd love to see it. Said you must have a set of marbles on you to do that at night. And That kind of reminds you. You kind of remind him of Clint Newton fishing in the wooden pea rolls. I think he says that's what it's called. And he wants to know about snakes.
I've had a few try to come on board with me, but
Yeah.
I got my poles right there and my fins right there. I just swat them away like flies.
Yeah, I'd be.
Yeah, I bet.
Nope.
Yeah, I bet you get some really good night vision. You know, being out there for so long with nothing going on.
Yeah.
Now I'm. We're going on an hour and 15 minutes. I think we'll probably. I honestly think that this is awesome. I definitely think that, like in fishermen and stuff, you should have articles written about, what you're doing with the artificials. I love the fact that we got you to get on the show. Hopefully, I would love to have you back on again at some point. I know there's going to be a lot of interest in this in coming months and years. So whatever techniques that are being used that are working and would just be fun to do to get out and try, I think is definitely what the sport needs. So I applaud you for everything you're doing. Hopefully, like I said, we'll get you back on. Chuck or Lyle, do you guys have anything else for Keith?
No, I'm good.
Yeah, I am too.
All right, fellas. I appreciate you having me, man. And I just got one last thing to say. You were talking about it's legal and there's nothing we can do about it. I just want people to know just because it's legal doesn't mean it's right.
That doesn't make it morally right.
Pay lakes are legal, and they're raping a lot of rivers in Ohio, in Indiana, West Virginia. I mean, thousands of pounds a week to thousands of different pay lakes. And it's pretty ridiculous, man. That needs to be shut down. Pay lakes need to raise their own fish. I'm not saying shut pay lakes down. I'm saying quit raping our public rivers.
Yep.
Grow farm-raised catfish or grow your own fish.
We absolutely. I'm in Indiana, so I know exactly what you're talking about. And like I said, I applaud you for being in a complete different state and being as passionate about it as you are, even though it's not necessarily happening in your waters. It's happening in mine. So, like I said, thanks a lot for being as passionate about it as you are, and helping educate the correct way.
All right, man. You guys have a good night. And holler at me anytime and let me know when you want to come tubing.
I will. And anybody on here watching the show or listening to the show, I would bet that if you're more interested or you want to be friends with them on Facebook, you can probably send him a request and he'll probably accept it and probably answer any questions you have and all that kind of stuff. So,
why don't you spell his name out, Chris, if you have it there?
His name is Keith Severns, and that's Keith Severns. Severns. So, all right. Thanks again, Keith. And hopefully we'll have you on again sometime.
All right. Tight lines to you, fellas.
All right. See you later, bud.
See ya.
Chuck, did you have any closing statements or anything?
No, I don't have anything to go over tonight.
All right. Lyle?
Twisted Cat Outdoors have the tournament in Nauvoo, Illinois, which is right above Quincy for those of you that don't know. This Saturday, launch will be at 7, weigh in at 3. We are looking into the ramp to make sure there's enough water to launch boats in and out of. The water is raising, so check the Facebook page for TCO. Should have something figured out and then have it all posted up tomorrow. But as it stands right now, we'll be going out of that ramp. A lot of calls about this tournament. It'll be above the Keokuk Dam and below the dam to the north, so it's a one pool channel cat basically tournament unless somebody trips on a flathead. And that's it from me.
All right. A few things from me. Again, I had a birthday. I turned 37 on May 14th. Happy birthday to me. There's been a few other birthdays this week. I believe David Ashby had a birthday. I believe who else? Mary Jane had a birthday. Brad Durick, I believe, had a birthday. There's a lot of cool people that had birthdays here this past couple days. Everybody cool was born in May. But yeah, happy birthday to everybody that had a birthday. Again, congratulations to Mary Jane and Terry. And um, again, thanks to Ernest and the team that beat out Ernest. I forget their name already, but congratulations to you guys. Sounds like you put your time in, and really, that's what helped you get that win. You earned it. Thanks to Keith Severns for coming on the show tonight. That was, I think, one of the best shows we've had. I really think that's some quality information that not a lot of people have or can get right now. So hopefully we'll have him on again, and we'll be able to do some more in depth and have more people on that have questions for him and things like that. Thanks to all the sponsors. I think Major Brown asked if Catfish Magazine was still online. I believe there still is an online version as well as a print version. I think that's the way they're doing it. I'm not totally positive. Do you guys neither of you know that for sure, one way or the other?
As far as I know, it will stay online. My understanding is it will always be online. He's just making the print version available to those who want it.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
Yep. So that's what I was kind of thinking too. So definitely check that out. There is 64 or 65 teams paid for Monsters on the Ohio. I think this year is going to break his record. I think he's going to have more teams this year than he's ever had before. Monsters on the Ohio. I think that me and Alex are going to whoop everybody's butt. So you might as well just save your money and not show up, because I'm going to talk all kinds of crap. Especially to all you ICA guys. You don't want none of this. I'll put it to you. He said their website is down on that. I'm not sure it could just be a temporary thing there, Major Brown.
Send him a message on Facebook.
Yeah, Doug Smith, I think is his name.
Yes.
So I don't know if you're not friends with him, maybe you just go to the Catfish Magazine Facebook page and send him a message. Yeah, also, Black Horse Rods and Catfish Tech, anybody else that's interested in having the ad put on the website, get a hold of me. We can get you set up and get you put on there. I think for tournaments this week, I think the I can't remember the name of it, but it's Josh Vanover's tournament trail that they're going to have out of Owensbury. I think they call it like the Catfish Classic or something along that lines. It's a $150 entry fee. I think it had to be in maybe by yesterday or today, but if you wanted to pay the more amount to get into it later, I think you can do that as well. You can send him a message and find out more information about that. ICA's next tournament is not until June 13th at Kentucky. That's in Culver, Indiana. Hopefully you guys can show up to make that. That's an all-night tournament. That'll be 7:30 at night till 7:30 in the morning. If you guys did not know, I am now the president of the Indiana Catfish Association. Hector Carrillo resigned. So I'm going to be doing the best I can to help run the ICA and make it go smooth this year. Not sure if I'll run at the end of this year to run again for 2 years or not, but if I do, I have a lot of good ideas, hopefully, that we can help, get the ICA back to rolling back like it was in its glory days and all that. But thanks again, everybody, for logging in and to the chat and talking with us and asking questions during the show tonight. We really appreciate it, and hopefully we'll see y'all again next Monday. Until then, you guys stay out of my fishing spot. Stay out.